Welcome everyone. I am back with another reading stream since taking a break following the conclusion of the Lord of the Rings. I finished up Return of the King about literally a week before Christmas. And so I took that time off between then and now to figure out the chapter breakdown for the first Halo book. And thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you for the compliments, much appreciated. And what book I'm going to read next, which will be, well, you can kind of see it there, Agatha Christie's Evil Under the Sun. Alright, but basically once I'm done with the first Halo book, because I'm not going to be reading the series, I'm just reading the first book, so there will be a little bit of a cliffhanger, so if you want to continue, you do so at your own discretion. So, do not bring Master Cheeks, do not bring that blasphemy into this chat. Thank you. You're welcome, everyone. But after this book, I'll be reading the Agatha Christie mystery, Evil Under the Sun. Okay, appreciate it, everyone. But tonight, I will be reading the prologue and chapter 1. So, we won't be meeting John just yet. That'll be in the next chapter. But I want to, give you a little prelude with this book if you haven't read it already. So, without further ado, I'm going to read the prologue and chapter 1 for Halo, The Fall of Reach. Also, you can see that, the definitive edition. Alright? Okay. So, contact. All teams stand by. Enemy contact, my position. The Chief knew there were probably more than, well, when I mean we were not going to be introduced to Chief as a kid until chapter 2. Because this actually details Halsey finding John and subsequent, well, let's call it for what it is, kidnapping of children for the Spartan program. Right? The Chief knew there were probably more than 100 of them. Motion sensors were off the scale. He wanted to see them for himself, though. His training made that lesson clear. Machines break, eyes don't. Oh yeah, jam. The 4 Spartans that composed Blue Team covered his back, standing absolutely silent and immobile in their Mjolnir combat armor. Someone had once commented they looked like Greek war gods in the armor, but his Spartans were far more effective and ruthless than Homer's gods had ever been. He snaked the fiber optic probe up and over the 3-meter-high stone ridge. When it was in place, the Chief linked it to his helmet's heads-up display. On the other side, he saw a valley with eroded rock walls and a river meandering through it. And camped along the banks as far as he could see were grunts. The Covenant used these stocky aliens as cannon fodder. They stood a meter tall and wore armored environment suits that replicated the atmosphere of their frozen home world. They reminded the Chief of biped dogs, not only in appearance, but because their speech, even with the new translation software, was an odd combination of high-pitched squeaks, guttural barks, and growls. They were They're about as smart as dogs, too, but what they lacked in brain power, they made up for in sheer tenacity. He had seen them hurl themselves at their enemies until their ground was piled high with their corpses, and their opponents had depleted their ammunition. As I've played the Halo games, through 4 at least, yes, this is true. These grunts were unusually well armed. Needlers, plasma pistols, and there were 4 stationary plasma cannons. Those could be a problem. One other problem, there were easily 1,000 of them. Oh yeah, the grunts are to be pitied, yes. But they are also annoying to fight in the Halo games. This operation had to go off without a hitch. Blue Team's mission was to draw out the Covenant rear guard and let Red Team slip through in the confusion. Red Team would then plant a Havoc tactical nuke. When the next Covenant ship landed, dropped its shields, and started to unload its troops, they'd get a 30-megaton surprise. Gravy D, you're lucky you're a mod, otherwise I'd have people ban you. The Chief detached the optics and took a step back from the rock wall. He passed the technical information along to his team over a secure comm channel. 4 of us, Blue 2 whispered over the link, and 1,000 of them. Piss poor odds for the little guys. Blue 2, the chief said, I want you up with those jackhammer launchers. Take out the cannons and soften the rest of them. Blue 3 and 5, you follow me up. We're on crowd control. Blue 4, you get the welcome mat ready. Understood? 4 blue lights winked on their heads-up display as his team acknowledged the orders. On my mark, the chief crouched and readied himself. Mark. Blue 2 leaped gracefully atop the ridge, 3 meters straight up. There was no sound as a half-ton of Mjolnir armor and Spartan landed on the limestone. She hefted one launcher and ran along the ridge. She was the fastest Spartan on the chief's team. He was confident those grunts wouldn't be able to track her for the 3 seconds she'd be exposed. In quick succession, Blue 2 emptied both of the jackhammer's tubes, dropped one launcher, and then fired the other rockets just as fast. The shells streaked into the grunt's formation and detonated. One of the stationary guns flipped over, engulfed in the blast, and the gunner was flung to the ground. She ditched the launcher, jumped down, rolled once, and was back on her feet, running at top speed to the fallback point. The chief, Blue 3, and Blue 5 leaped to the top of the ridge. The chief switched to infrared to cut through the clouds of dust and propel an exhaust just in time to see the second salvo of jackhammers strike their targets. 2 consecutive blossoms of flash, fire, and thunder decimated the front ranks of the grunt guards, and most importantly, turned the last of the plasma cannons into smoldering wreckage. I'll answer that question at the end of the stream, so remind me. It's kind of like a 2-part answer. The chief and the others opened fire with their MA-5B assault rifles, a full automatic spray of 15 rounds per second. Armor-piercing bullets tore into the aliens, breaching their environment suits and sparking the methane tanks they carried. Gouts of flame traced wild arcs as the wounded grunts ran in confusion and pain. Finally, the grunts realized what was happening and where the attack was coming from. They regrouped and charged en masse. An earthquake vibration coursed through the ground and shook the porous stone beneath the chief's boots. The 3 Spartans exhausted their AP clips and then in unison switched to shredder rounds. They fired into the tide of creatures as they surged forward. Line after line of them dropped. Scores more just trampled their fallen comrades. Explosive needles bounced off the chief's armor, detonating as they hit the ground. He saw the flash of a plasma bolt, sidestepped, and heard the air crackle where he had stood a split second before. Inbound Covenant air support, Blue 4 reported over the comm link. ETA is 2 minutes, Chief. Roger that, he said. Blue 3 and 5 maintain fire for 5 seconds, then fall back. Mark. The status lights winked once, acknowledging his order. The grunts were there, meters from the wall. The chief tossed 2 grenades. He, Blue 3, and Blue 5 stepped backward off the ridge, landed, spun, and ran. 2 dull thumps reverberated through the ground. The squeals and barks of the incoming grunts, however, drowned out the noise of the exploding grenades. The chief and his team sprinted up the half-kilometer sandstone slope in 32 seconds flat. The hill ended abruptly, a sheer drop of 200 meters straight into the ocean. Blue 4's voice crackled over the comm channel. Welcome mat is laid out, Chief. Ready when you are. The grunts looked like a living carpet of steel blue skin, claws, and chrome weapons. Some ran on all fours up the slope. They barked and howled, baying for the Spartan's blood. Roll out the carpet, the chief told Blue 4. The hill exploded. Plumes of pulverized sandstone and fire and smoke hurled skyward. The Spartans had buried a spiderweb pattern of Lotus anti-tank mines. Earlier in that morning. Sand and bits of metal pinged off the chief's helmet. The chief and his team opened fire again, picking off the remaining grunts that were still alive and struggling to stand. His motion detector flashed a warning. There were incoming projectiles high at 2 o'clock, velocities at over 100 kilometers per second. 5 Covenant Banshee flyers appeared over the ridge. New contacts, all teams open fire, he barked. The Spartans, without hesitation, fired on the alien flyers. Bullet hits pinged from the flyers' chitinous armor. It would take a very lucky shot to take out the anti-grav pods on the end of the craft's stubby, meter-long wings. The fire got the aliens' attention, however. Lances of fire slashed from the Banshee's gun ports. The chief dove and rolled to his feet. Sandstone exploded where he had stood only an instant before. Globules of molten glass sprayed the Spartans. The Banshee screamed over their heads, then banked sharply for another pass. Blue 3, Blue 5, Theta maneuver, the chief called out. Blue 3 and... Sorry, my voice just broke there. Blue 3 and 5 gave him the thumbs-up signal. They regrouped at the edge of the cliff and clipped onto the steel cables that dangled down the length of the rock wall. Did you set up the 4 gases with fire or shrapnel? The chief asked. Both, Blue 3 replied. Good, the chief grabbed the detonators. Cover me. The foe gases were never meant to take down flying targets. The Spartans had put them there to mop up the grunts. In the field, though, you had to improvise. Another tenet of their training. Adapt or die. The Banshees formed into a flying V and swooped toward them, almost brushing the ground. The Spartans opened fire. Bolts of superheated plasma from the Banshees punctuated the air. The chief dodged to the right, then to the left. He ducked. Their aim was getting better. The Banshees were 100 meters away, then 50 meters. Their plasma weapons might recycle fast enough to get another shot, and at this range, the chief wouldn't be dodging. The Spartans jumped backward, off the cliff, guns still blazing. The chief jumped too and hit the detonators. The 10 foe gases, each a steel barrel filled with the napalm and spent AP and shredder casings, had been buried a few meters from the edge of the cliff, their mouths angled up at 30 degrees. When the grenades at the bottom of the barrels exploded, it made one hell of a barbecue out of anything that got in their way. The Spartans slammed into the side of the cliff. The steel cables they were attached to thwanged taut. A wave of heat and pressure washed over them. A heartbeat later, 5 flaming Banshees hurled over their heads, leaving thick trails of black smoke as they arced into the water. They splashed down, then vanished beneath the emerald waves. The Spartans hung there a moment, waiting and watching with their assault rifles trained on the water. No survivors surfaced. They rappelled down to the beach and rendezvoused with Blue 2 and 4. Red Team reports mission objective achieved, Chief, Blue 2 said. They send their compliments. It's hardly going to balance the scales, Blue 3 muttered and kicked the sand. Not like those grunts when they slaughtered the 105th drop jet platoon. They should suffer just as much as those guys did. The chief had nothing to say to that. It wasn't his job to make things suffer. He was just here to win battles. Whatever it took. Blue 2, the chief said. Get me an uplink. Aye, aye. She patched him into the SATCOM system. Mission accomplished, Captain DeBlanc, the chief reported. Enemy neutralized. Excellent news, the captain said. He sighed and added, but we're pulling you out, Chief. We're just getting warmed up down here, sir. Well, that's a different story up here. Move out for pickup ASAP. Understood, sir. The chief killed the uplink. He told his team, the party's over, Spartans. Dust off in 15. They jogged double quick up the 10 kilometers of the beach and returned to their dropship. A Pelican, scuffed and dented from 3 days' hard fighting. They boarded and the ship's engine whined to life. Blue 2 took off her helmet and scratched the stubble of her brown hair. It's a shame to leave this place, she said, and leaned against the portal. There are so few left. The chief stood by her and glanced out as they lifted into the air. There were wide rolling plains of palm grass, the green expanse of ocean, a wispy band of clouds in the sky, and setting red suns. There will be other places to fight for, he said. Will there, she whispered. The Pelican ascended rapidly through the atmosphere. The sky darkened, and soon only stars surrounded them. In orbit, there were dozens of frigates, destroyers, and 2 massive carriers. Every ship had carbon scoring and holes peppering their hulls. They were all maneuvering to break orbits. They docked in the port bay of the UNSC destroyer Resolute. Despite being surrounded by 2 meters of titanium A battle plate and an array of modern weapons, the chief preferred to have his feet on the ground, with real gravity and real atmosphere to breathe. A place where he was in control and where his life wasn't held in the hands of anonymous pilots. A ship just wasn't home. The battlefield was. The chief rode the elevator to the bridge to make his report, taking advantage of the momentary respite to read Red Team's after-action reports in his display. As predicted, the Spartans of Red, Blue, and Green teams, augmenting 3 divisions of battle-hardened UNSC Marines, had stalled a Covenant ground advance. Casualty figures were still coming in, but on the ground, at least, the alien forces had been completely stonewalled. No. To answer your question, Soul Assassin. That's who wrote it. A moment later, the lift doors parted, and he stepped on the rubberized deck. He snapped a crisp salute to Captain DeBlanc. Sir, reporting as ordered. The junior bridge officers took a step back from the chief. They weren't used to seeing a Spartan in full Mjolnir armor up close. Most line troops had never ever dry weather. Most line troops had never even seen a Spartan. The ghostly iridescent green of the armor plates and the matte black layers underneath made him look like part gladiator, part machine. Or perhaps to the bridge crew, he looked as alien as the Covenant. The view screens showed stars in Jericho 4's 4 silver moons. And at extreme range, a small constellation of stars drifted closer. The captain waved the chief closer as he stared at the cluster of stars. The rest of the battle group. It's happening again. Request permission to remain on the bridge, sir, the chief said. I want to see it this time, sir. The captain hung his head, looking weary. He glanced at the Master Chief with haunted eyes. Very well, Chief. After all you've been through to save Jericho 7, we owe you that. We're only 30 million kilometers out system, though not half as far as I'd like to be. He turned to the nav officer. Bearing 120, prepare our exit vector. He turned to face the chief. We'll stay to watch, but if those bastards so much as twitch in our direction, we're jumping the hell out of here. Understood, sir. Thank you. Resolute's engines rumbled and the ship moved off. 3 dozen Covenant ships, big ones, destroyers, and cruisers, winked into view in the system. They were sleek, looking more like sharks than starcraft. Their lateral lines brightened with plasma, then discharged and rained fire down upon Jericho 7. The chief watched for an hour and didn't move a muscle. The planet's lakes, rivers, and oceans vaporized. By tomorrow, the atmosphere would boil away too. Fields and forests were glassy smooth and glowing red-hot in patches. Where there had once been a paradise, only hell remained. Make ready to jump clear of the system, the captain ordered. The chief continued to watch, his face grim. There had been 10 years of this. The vast network of human colonies whittled down to a handful of strongholds by merciless, implacable enemy. The chief had killed the enemy on the ground, shot them, stabbed them, and broken them with his own 2 hands. On the ground, the Spartans always won. The problem was, the Spartans couldn't take their fighting to space. Every minor victory on the ground turned into a major defeat in orbit. Soon, there would be no more colonies, no human settlements, and nowhere left to run. That ends the prologue. And thus we begin Chapter 1, ladies and gentlemen. Lieutenant Junior Grade, and this is going to go back in time, just FYI. Lieutenant Junior Grade Jacob Keyes awoke. Dull red light filled his blurry vision and he choked on the slime in his lungs and throats. Sit up, Lieutenant Keyes, a disembodied male voice said. Sit. Take a deep breath and cough, sir. You need to clear the bronchial surfactant. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. Lieutenant Keyes pushed himself up, peeling his back off the form-fitting gel bed. Wisps of fog overflowed from the cryogenic tube as he clumsily climbed out. He sat on a nearby bench, tried to inhale, and doubled over, coughing until a long string of clear fluid flowed from his open mouth. He sat up and drew his first full breath in 2 weeks. He tasted his lips and almost gagged. The cryo-inhalant was specially designed to be regurgitated and swallowed, replacing nutrients lost in the deep sleep. No matter how they changed the formula, though, it always tasted like lime-flavored mucus. Status, Toran. Are we under attack? Negative, sir, the ship's AI replied. Status normal. We will enter normal space near the Eridanus system in 45 minutes. Lieutenant Keyes coughed again. Good, thank you, Toran. You're welcome, Lieutenant. Eridanus was on the border of the outer colonies. It was just far enough off the beaten path for pirates to be lurking, waiting to capture a diplomatic shuttle like the Han. The ship wouldn't last long in a space action. They should have an escort. He didn't understand why they had been sent alone, but junior lieutenants didn't question orders, especially when those orders came from Fleetcom HQ on Planet Reach. Wake-up protocols dictated that he inspect the rest of the crew to make sure no one had run into problems reviving. He looked around the sleep chamber. Rows of stainless steel lockers and showers, a medical pod for emergency resuscitations, and 40 cryogenic tubes, all empty except the one to his left. The other person on the Han was a civilian specialist, Dr. Halsey. Keyes had been ordered to protect her at all costs, pilot the ship, and generally stay the hell out of her way. They might as well have asked him to hold her hand. This wasn't a military mission, it was babysitting. Someone in Fleet Command must have him on their blacklist. The cover of Dr. Halsey's tube hummed open. Mist rippled out as she sat up, coughing. Her pale skin made her look like a ghost in the fog. Matted locks of dark hair clung to her neck. She didn't look much older than him, and she was lovely. Not beautiful, but definitely a striking woman. For a civilian, anyway. Her blue eyes fixed upon the lieutenant, and she looked him over. "We must be near Eridanis," she said. Lieutenant Keyes almost saluted reflexively, but checked the motion. "Yes, Doctor." His face reddened and looked away from her slender body. He had drilled in cryogenic recovery a dozen times at the academy. He had seen his fellow officers naked before, men and women, but Dr. Halsey was a civilian. He didn't know what protocols applied. Lieutenant Keyes got up and went to her. "Can I help you?" She swung her legs out of the tube and climbed out. "I'm fine, Lieutenant. Get cleaned up and dressed." She brushed past him and strode to the showers. "Hurry, we have important work to do." Lieutenant Keyes stood straighter. "Aye, aye, ma'am." With that brief encounter, their roles and the roles of conduct crystallized. Civilian or not, like it or not, Lieutenant Keyes understood that Dr. Halsey was in charge. The bridge of the Han had an abundance of space for a vessel of its size. That is, it had all the maneuvering room of a walk-in closet. A freshly showered, shaved, and uniformed Lieutenant Keyes pulled himself into the room and sealed the pressure door behind him. Every surface of the bridge was covered with monitors and screens. The wall on his left was a single large, semi-curved view screen, dark for the moment because there was nothing in the visible spectrum to see in slip space. Behind him was the Han's spinning center section, containing the mess, the rec room, and sleep chambers. Sorry, allergies. There was no gravity on the bridge, however. The diplomatic shuttle had been designed for the comfort of its passengers, not the crew. It didn't seem to bother Dr. Halsey. Strapped into the navigator's couch, she wore a white jumpsuit that matched her pale skin, and had tied her dark hair onto a simple, elegant knot. Her fingers danced across 4 keypads, tapping in commands. "Welcome, Lieutenant," she said without looking. "Please have a seat at the communication station and monitor the channels when we enter normal space. If there's so much as a squeak on non-standard frequencies, I want to know instantly." He drifted to the communication station and strapped himself down. "Toran," she asked. "Awaiting your orders, Dr. Halsey," the ship AI replied. "Give me astrogation maps of the system." "Online, Dr. Halsey." "Are there any planets currently aligned with our entry trajectory and Eridanis 2? I want to pick up a gravitational boost so we can move in system ASAP." Calculating now, Dr. Hall. "And can we have some music? Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3, I think." "Understood, Doctor. And start a pre-burn warm-up cycle for the fusion engines." "Yes, Doc. And stop spinning the Han Central carousel section. We may need the power." Working, she's back. The music started and she sighed. "Thank you, Torin." Hey, hello, Stig. "You're welcome, Dr. Halsey. Entering normal space in 5 minutes, plus or minus 3 minutes." Lieutenant Keyes shot the doctor an admiring glance. He was impressed. Few people could put a shipboard AI through its paces so rigorously as to cause a detectable pause. She turned to face him. "Yes, Lieutenant, you have a question?" He composed himself and pulled his uniform jacket taut. "I was curious about our mission, ma'am. I assume we are to recontour something in the system, but why send a shuttle rather than a prowler or a corvette? And why just the 2 of us?" She blinked and smiled. "A fairly accurate assumption and analysis, Lieutenant. This is a reconnaissance mission, of sorts. We are here to observe a child. The first of many, I hope." "A child? A 6-year-old male, to be precise." She waved her hand. "It may help if you think of this purely as a UNSC-funded physiological study." Every trace of a smile evaporated from her lips, which is precisely what you are to tell anyone who asks. Is that understood, Lieutenant? "Yes, Doctor." Keyes frowned, retrieved his grandfather's pipe from his pocket, and turned it end over end. He couldn't smoke the thing. Igniting a combustible on the flight deck was against every major regulation on a UNSC space vehicle, but sometimes he just fiddled with it, or chewed on the tip, which helped him think. He stuck it back in his pocket, and decided to push the issue and find out more. "With all due respect, Dr. Halsey, this sector of space is dangerous." With a sudden deceleration, they entered a normal space. The main view screen flickered, and a million stars snapped into focus. The Han dove toward a cloud-swirled gas giant dead ahead. Stand by for burn, Dr. Halsey announced. On my mark, Torin. Lieutenant Keyes tightened his harness. 3, 2, 1, mark. The ship rumbled and sped faster toward the gas giant. The pull of the harness increased around the lieutenant's chest, making it breathing difficult. They accelerated for 47 seconds. The storms of the gas giant grew larger on the view screen. Then the Han arced up and away from its surface. Their Eridanus drifted into the center of the screen and filled the bridge with warm orange light. Gravity boost complete, Torin chimed. ETA to Eridanus is 42 minutes, 3 seconds. Well done, Dr. Halsey said. She unlocked her harness and floated free, stretching. I hate cryo-sleep, she said. It leaves one so cramped. As I was saying before, Doctor, the system is dangerous. She gracefully spun to face them, halting her momentum with a hand on the bulkhead. Oh yes, I know how dangerous the system is. It is a colorful history. Rebel insurrection in 2494, beaten down by the UNSC 2 years later at the cost of 4 destroyers. She thought a moment, then added, I don't believe the Office of Naval Intelligence ever found their base in the asteroid field. And since there have been organized raids and scattered pirates' activity nearby, one might conclude, as Oni clearly has, that the remnants of the original rebel faction are still active. Is that what you were worried about? Yes, the lieutenant replied. He swallowed, his mouth suddenly dry, but he refused to be cowed by the doctor, by a civilian. I need hardly remind you that it's my job to worry about our security. She knew more than he did, much more about the Eridanus system, and she obviously had contacts in the intelligence community. Keyes had never seen an Oni spook. To the best of his knowledge, anyway, mainline Navy personnel had elevated such agents to near mythological status. Whatever else he thought of Dr. Halsey, he would assume from now on that she knew what she was doing. Dr. Halsey stretched once more, then strapped herself back onto the navigation couch. Speaking of pirates, she said with her back now to him, weren't you supposed to be monitoring communication channels for illegal signals, just in case someone takes an undue interest in a lone, unescorted diplomatic shuttle? Lieutenant Keyes cursed himself for his momentary lapse in Snap 2. He scanned all frequencies and had Torin cross-check their authentication codes. All signals verified, he reported. No pirate transmissions detected. Continue to monitor them, please. An awkward 30 minutes passed. Dr. Halsey was content to read reports on the navigational screens and kept her back to him. Lieutenant Keyes finally cleared his throat. May I speak candidly, Doctor? You don't need my permission, she said. By all means, speak candidly, Lieutenant. You've been doing a fine job so far. Under normal circumstances, among normal officers, that last remark would have been insubordination, or worse, a rebuke. But he let it pass. Normal military protocol seemed to have been jettisoned on this flight. You said we were here to observe a child, he shook his head dubiously. If this is a cover for real military intelligence work, then to tell the truth, there are better qualified officers for this mission. I graduated from UNSC OCS only 7 weeks ago. My orders had me rotated to the Magellan. Those orders were rescinded, ma'am. She turned and scrutinized him with icy blue eyes. Go on, Lieutenant. He reached for his pipe, but then checked the motion. She would probably think it is silly habits. If this is an intel op, he said, then I don't understand why I'm here at all. Something deep inside Lieutenant Keyes told him... She leaned forward, then, Lieutenant, I shall be equally candid. Something deep inside Lieutenant Keyes told him he would regret hearing whatever Dr. Halsey had to say. He ignored the feeling. He wanted to know the truth. Go ahead, Doctor. Her slight smile returned. You are here because Vice Admiral Stanforth, head of Section 3 of UNSC Military Intelligence Division, refused to lend me this shuttle without at least one UNSC officer aboard, even though he knows damn well that I can pilot this bucket by myself. So I picked one UNSC officer. You. She tapped her lower lip thoughtfully and added, You see, I've read your file, Lieutenant. All of it. I don't know. You do know what I'm talking about. She rolled her eyes. You don't lie, Will. Don't insult me by trying again. Lieutenant Keyes swallowed. Then why me, especially if you've seen my record? I chose you precisely because of your record. Because of the incident in your record year at OCS. Of the incident in your second year at OCS. 14 ensigns killed. You were wounded and spent 2 months in rehabilitation. Plasma burns are particularly painful, I understand. He rubbed his hands together. Yes. The lieutenant responsible was your CO on that training mission. You refused to testify against him despite overwhelming evidence and the testimony of his fellow officers and friends. Yes, they told the Board of Review the secret the lieutenant had entrusted to you all, that he was going to test his new theory to make slipspace jumps more accurate. He was wrong, and you all paid for his eagerness in poor mathematics. Lieutenant Key studied his hands and had the feeling of falling inward. Dr. Halsey's voice sounded distant. Yes. Despite continuing pressure, you never testified. They threatened to demote you, charged you with insubordination, and refusing a direct order, even discharged you from the Navy. Your fellow officer candidates testified, though. The review board had all the evidence they needed to court-martial your CO. They put you on report and dropped all further disciplinary actions. Sorry. I hate allergies. He said nothing. His head hung low. That is why you are here, Lieutenant, because you have an ability that is exceedingly rare in the military. You can keep a secret. She drew in a long breath and added, You may have to keep many secrets after this mission is over. He glanced up. There was a strange look in her eyes. Pity? That caught him off guard and he looked away again. But he felt better that he had sensed OCS. Someone trusted him again. I think, she said, that you would rather be on the Magellan, fighting and dying on the frontier. No, he caught the lie, as he said it, stopped, and then corrected himself. Yes, the UNSC needs every man and woman patrolling the outer colonies. Between the raiders and insurrections, it's a wonder it hasn't fallen apart. Indeed, Lieutenant. Ever since we left Earth's gravity well, we've been fighting one another for every cubic centimeter of vacuum. From Mars to the Jovian moons to the Hydra system massacres, and on to the 100 brushfires wars in the outer colonies. It has always been on the brink of falling apart. That's why we're here. To observe one child, he said. What difference could a child make? One of her eyebrows arched. This child could be more useful to the UNSC than a fleet of destroyers, 1,000 junior-grade lieutenants, or even me. In the end, the child may be the only thing that makes any difference. Approaching Eridanus 2, Taran informed them. Plot an atmospheric vector for the Luxor spaceport, Dr. Halsey ordered. Lieutenant Keyes, make ready to land. And thus ends Chapter 1 of Halo Fall of Reach. So, we're seeing basically we're witnessing the, at least in mission, we'll call it that, basically. Basically, these chapters will kind of go fairly fast. I mean, this book is not as big as, in terms of like thickness and like this, as the Lord of the Rings book. So these chapters will go pretty fast. All right. So to answer the question about my favorite Halo game, it's a toss-up between 2 and 3. And the reason why I say it's a toss-up between 2 and 3 is, objectively, Halo 3 is a better story, better gameplay, and so forth. Alright? I'm gonna, say, Halo 3 very likely has the edge. But I always go back to Halo 2, because I remember playing that a lot. So there very much is a nostalgic element when factoring in which one I prefer. Alright, so basically it's between 2 and 3. I think with some slight changes, and I think you'll agree with me when I say this, because I agree with John O in a way. John Connors, for those who do not know, in a way about this, that if some tweaks with the Halo Reach game, alright, would fit canonically within the Halo canon. Alright? I do like playing Halo Reach. I know canonically it is not accurate. I fully admit that. But I love playing it just the same, and I feel like if they were to take that plot, make the tweaks, alright, make the tweaks so it fits in with the existing Halo lore, the book lore, alright? That could have easily been the first season of a Halo show. Easily been the first season of a Halo show. We did not absolutely need to see Master Chief, alright? We did not... Could have easily been the first season of the Halo show, with the first season ending hearing Master Chief's voice off screen. I'm going to backtrack. Can you imagine the nerdgasms for Halo fans? Just off screen, hearing Master Chief's voice say, "Blue team on me." Can you imagine the anticipation for season 2? Just hearing those words, hearing the iconic Master Chief voice. Okay. Bring Steve Downes in. All right, he's the one who voiced Master Chief in the games. Bring him in. We don't need to see Master Chief's face. Bring him in to do the voice. Have someone do the action scenes in the suits. They could have practically printed money if they wanted to. They could have printed money at that point. But with all the streaming subscriptions pouring in to watch that series, Paramount would not be in the position it is now. They would not be in the position they are now. And yes, Noble Six can be either a girl or a guy. No one would care. At least those who have played the game and know the story would not have cared. Yes, there would be grifters. I'd imagine there'd be grifters on, even on our side. They would argue that let's say if a woman was cast as Noble Six, they would call it woke and all that BS. And those of us who have played the game are be like, well, Noble Six can be a woman. We don't know because we never see Noble Six's face. Noble Six is the player, so if the player chooses a male character, guess what? The player is playing as a male character. I chose a female. All right. So Noble Six can be either or. I would actually Trey. In a way, yes. But actually, you know the actor I would have picked for the physical parts? All right. This is the actor I would have picked. Michael J. White. Bring in Michael J. White for the action parts. And the reason why I would have picked him is because of his martial arts background as well. So he could very much do the physical in the suits. Bring him to do those scenes in the suits and have Steve Downes do the voice. I'm just saying that's what if I were casting for the show, if I was doing the Steve picking, if I was like, oh hush, Gravy. If I was casting for the seasons, if I was storyboarding what season 1 would focus on, what season 2 would focus on, and so forth, that's what I would do. Yeah, but he's a little too big in terms of like girth. Maybe back then I'd be like not so much. Maybe now I could maybe see it because he has kind of like slimmed down a little bit. He's a little too girthy. Welcome, Dan. You just missed it. No, I would not pick John Cena. No, I'm sticking with Michael J. White. Michael J. White for the action scenes in the suit, and Steve Downes brought in to provide the voice. That's what I would have done. Gravy, I'm gonna remove your mod status so you can be timed out repeatedly. Just so you know. Anyway, this is like these streams will most likely be shorter than the Lord of the Rings ones because the chapters themselves don't take that long. All right, it is not only shorter in terms of length than Lord of the Rings. I mean, in terms of size. See, so it's like not like I'm picking up a huge book like with Lord of the Rings. Anyway, that would be my casting for the Lord of the Rings show. So, and that's how I would approach the first season. Would be fixing the lore within the Halo Reach game and making that season 1. Oh, I walked into that one. Anyway, so basically it's a toss-up between Halo 3 and Halo 2 as far as my favorite Halo games. Because I have to factor in nostalgia, especially with Halo 2. So that's my answer. I do love playing Halo Reach. I do very much enjoy playing Halo Combat Evolved. 4 is you really have to read the books to understand what's going on in that story. 5 I never bothered with. I never even bothered with 6 was Infinite, and I only really played the multiplayer. Never played the campaign. ODST, I think, is underrated. I like playing ODST. I kind of lump ODST in with Halo 3. Even though it's a separate game, I kind of lump those two together when I say Halo 3. Because it is within that same story. So. I did Halo game streams in a while back, so I can do them again. I can start with Reach, maybe go to start with Reach, go to Combat Evolved and 2 and 3, maybe play 4, but at least go through 3, and to include ODST. Anyway, chat, thank you. But that'll be like a little bit down the road in the future. Maybe closer to when Campaign Evolved drops, whenever that is. You know, the remaster of a remaster for Combat Evolved. Just do all the missions while driving. So anyway, but that's it. But yeah, tomorrow, chat, I will be doing another gaming stream. I'm planning on playing some more Arc Raiders tomorrow evening. Thursday, I'll be reading chapters 2 through 4 of Halo: The Fall of Reach. Then notice I'm not going to be able to stream Friday evening or Saturday during the day, so I'll most likely do a watch party. Most likely do a watch party Saturday evening through my Discord. And then I now have the time for Sunday, so I'm not going to be able to do any stream in the afternoon this coming Sunday. So the next time you see me after Thursday for a stream will be for Talk Nerdy to Us on my channel. This coming for Talk Nerdy to Us on my channel. I will be getting back into playing Borderlands, Golden Fox. Right now, it's just right now I kind of wanted to focus on leveling up in Arc Raiders, so that way if I ever do play with other people, I'm not going to be like such a low level. But like, you know, also now that I'm getting more back into a normal schedule, whereas like with Thanksgiving and Christmas, it was more or less like, what can I jump on real fast to play versus like get invested in, like with the Borderlands story. But I will be playing that. I have other indie games I'll be playing. I saw reels for like a game that I was gifted on Steam called Fever Meme, which looks like another game where the devs troll the players. So I'm looking at like, you know, indie horror games and so forth. So I'll be playing other games. Just right now it was easier post Christmas, like the beginning of the new year, to kind of focus on Arc Raiders, and then moving forward with my little agenda that I got for Christmas, a little agenda book, I'll be able to plan out what games I'll be playing each gaming stream. From a chat perspective, I enjoy the horror games. So yeah, I'm incorporating more of those in, like, you know, like say like Friday evenings, playing like the indie horror games. Alright, so basically like earlier in the week would be like Arc Raiders, and the weekend would be the more chill games like the indie horror, and so, or the indie games in general. That's the plan, basically, like moving forward. That's like basically what would be the plan. Oh yeah, he plays Arc Raiders. He did, so I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm old school. I need to physically write something down on something that I can hold and look at. I don't think I'm gonna play the Terrifier game, but I am planning on getting the Hellraiser game that's supposed to be coming out this year. So, sorry, hiccup. So I plan on playing the Hellraiser game that's coming out this year. I'm also hoping to get the Lego Batman game that's dropping, because that looks pretty cool. Maybe Halloween, I don't know, this seems like something that I would be playing with other people to, like, basically to have fun. So, yeah, I'm just saying that, like, you know, right now it's easier to jump onto Arc Raiders, but beginning next week, I will have other games I'll be playing. And, well, I might reverse it. I might save Arc Raiders for, like, the weekends, basically offline / the weekends, and other games like during the week. We'll see. Anyway, but take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day or evening wherever you are in the world. I will see you all tomorrow evening for a gaming channel on my YouTube and Kick. And I will see you on Thursday for some more Halo: The Fall of Reach. Take care, stay safe, and peace.